Hola a todos, espero que ustedes se encuentren bien. Hoy vamos a repasar los demostrativos en español. So today we are going to review demonstratives in Spanish. And as you see, the word for demonstratives would be demostrativos. Now, what are demonstratives? So demonstratives refer to words that are used to identify a noun in terms of its distance from the speaker. In English, demonstratives would be this and that, and the plural counterparts would be these and those respectively. And as I said, they're used to identify a noun in terms of its distance from the speaker. So we're going to look at this in Spanish. As you know, in English, demonstratives can either be adjectives or pronouns. And the same thing occurs in Spanish, but we'll see that some activities or some activities have to be done in order for the grammatical rules to be adhered to, okay? So without any further ado, let us start with this, okay? So how do we say this in Spanish? This can be expressed in two ways if we're talking about this being an adjective, okay? We can either say este or esta, right? And this is going to be affected by gender. Este is for a masculine noun. Esta is for a feminine noun, okay? So in the examples, este coche es rojo. This car is red. We used este because coche is masculine and it is singular, but I didn't specify number because we're talking about this, okay? So you already know that it is singular. Este coche es rojo. No salgas con esta chica. Do not go out with this girl. Yep. So we use esta because chica is feminine. So we could replace coche with any other noun that is singular and masculine, okay? And we could say este muro, por ejemplo, this wall is red. Este muro es rojo. And we could replace chica with any noun that is singular and feminine. I could say no salgas con esta mujer. Do not go out with this woman. Okay? So in terms of adjectives, este and esta are going to be the demonstrative adjectives to mean this in Spanish, okay? So let us go on to, let's do the plural. So what are the plural forms? As you know, the plural of this is going to be these. So how do we express those? I said those. How do we express it in Spanish? So we have este, which is the singular form. That becomes estos. And esta, which is the feminine form, becomes estas. So these is going to be estos or estas. And the same rules with gender apply. So if we have a noun that is masculine, and obviously plural because we're talking about these, we're going to use estos. For example, estos coches son rojos. These cars are red. As you see, this is the plural form of the first sentence. Okay? Estos coches son rojos. No salgas con estas chicas. Do not go out with these girls. So once we have nouns that are masculine and feminine and they're plural, we can use these adjectives. So when we are using demonstratives as adjectives, they have to be placed before the noun and they must agree with the noun in terms of gender and number. Okay? Muy bien. Now we're going to look at them as pronouns. So when we have demonstratives acting as pronouns, what happens? What happens when we have them as pronouns? So these are the pronouns. We have este, esta, and esto. So there's only one word that should be unfamiliar. We already saw este and esta, but esto is different, and we'll get to that. So in the case of este and esta, they must agree in gender with the noun which is being referenced. So as we know, pronouns replace nouns. So when we use este and esta as pronouns, we essentially use it to replace a noun. But here's the thing. If we use them as demonstrative pronouns, whatever we are talking about has to be known. It does not have to be mentioned in the sentence per se, but it has to be known via context. We have to know what is being talked about. Okay? So, because we need to know, whatever it is that we're talking about will, if what we are talking about is masculine, then we use este, as singular of course, and if we are talking about something that is feminine, we use esta. And obviously we don't put them in front of the noun like we did with the adjectives. No, these stand on their own, okay? So for example, este es mi padre. Este, this is a pronoun, and it has to be este because we're talking about mi padre, which is singular and is masculine. So this is my father. Este es mi padre. Okay? Now, on the other hand, aunque la casa de Susana es bonita, prefiero esta. Although Susana's house is beautiful, I prefer this. And by this one, we're talking about something specific. So we know that we are talking about a house. We know via context that we are talking about a house. So I can say esta. I don't have to say esta casa. I can say esta because we know that we are talking about a house. So you see the difference here. When it comes to the pronouns, we just have to ensure that what is being referenced is known. And another, by the way, in the past, we had to put the accent on the E, the first E, to mark the fact that we are using it as a pronoun and not an adjective. But because the context is obviously going to tell us which one is being used, the Royal Academy of Spanish decided that it was no longer necessary to place the tilde on the word to distinguish it because context would make it obvious. But sometimes you may still see the accent being put on the first E, but it is not necessary, okay? So yes, este es mi padre, or you could say esta es mi novia. Why esta? Because we are talking about, what am I, yes, oh, I thought I was getting sidetracked, but yes, I'm correct. Esta es mi novia, so this is my girlfriend. Esta, right? Because we are talking about mi novia, and that's singular and feminine, okay? Muy bien. So, yes, now let's get to esto. I'm sure you have seen esto before. Now, esto is what we call a neuter pronoun, meaning that it does not have a gender. So, when we want to reference something like an idea, something that does not have a gender, or because we don't know what it is, we use esto. So for example, let's say I take up an object and I do not know what it is. I would say que es esto, because I don't know the word for it. And if I don't know the word for it, how am I going to know its gender? Right? So I would have to say que es esto. If I say esto es muy importante, this is very important, then this refers to something abstract or something that is not something tangible. I could be talking about a situation, a lesson, something that is not really tangible. So we use the neuter pronoun esto. For example, esto es un desastre. This is a disaster. What does this refer to? We don't know. So because it has not been mentioned and it's not clear, we have to say esto. Right? So esto is used when the item or the noun is unspecified. Okay? Muy bien. And of course, let's do the plural counterparts. So these, as demonstrative pronouns, are going to be estos and estas, same as the adjectives. So, estos son rojos. These are red. In this case, we know that we are talking about the cars, so we can just replace that by saying estos son rojos. Okay? Because we know we're talking about the cars. And here, no pintes estas. Do not paint these ones. We're talking about something specific. I didn't use the same example because it would be different. So in this case, let's say we are talking about imágenes, images. And I said, do not paint these, right? No pintes estas imágenes. So I can remove imágenes because we know what is being referenced, and I can just say, no pintes estas. And like I said earlier, before, we would put the accent on the E to make the difference clear, but we don't need to do that because it is obvious via context, right? If it is accompanied by the noun, then you know it is being used, like right after, then you know it is being used as an adjective. If it's by itself, then you know it is a pronoun, okay? All right, so this would be the first demonstrative that we are going to look at, this, and now we are going to proceed to that. So we move on to that. So that is going to be used when we are talking about an item that is farther away from the speaker. Okay? And the same rules apply. So that in Spanish, if we're using it as a demonstrative adjective, we have ese and esa. Ese is going to be for masculine nouns, whereas esa is going to be for feminine nouns, okay? So, ese problema es grave. That problem is serious. Esa pizarra es grande. That whiteboard is big. We can replace pizarra with any noun that is feminine, and we can replace problema with any noun that is masculine. Muy sencillo este tema. Este tema es muy sencillo. Okay? Now we go over to the other side. As we have the plural, which plural of that is going to be those, and ese becomes esos, whereas esa becomes esas. Okay? So we use the same examples. Esos problemas son graves. Those problems are serious. And esa becoming esas. Esas pizarras son grandes. Those whiteboards are big. That's right. So problemas could be replaced by any noun that is masculine, and pizarras can be replaced by any noun that is feminine, and plural, of course. So we go down to demonstrative pronouns. When we use that as a demonstrative pronoun, we have Este, Esta, and Eso. And as we saw earlier with this, the neuter pronoun was Esto. So this is also a neuter pronoun, Eso, alright? So as we know, pronouns replace nouns and they stand alone. Therefore, ese es grave. Ese is going to refer to the problem. So we already know what is being referenced. So we don't need to say ese problema. We can just say ese es muy grave because we're being specific. Okay? Esa es grande, meaning the whiteboard, that is big. Or not even the whiteboard, but something else that was mentioned that we're making reference to, okay? Esa es grande, that is big. Now when it comes to eso, just like esto, perdón, just like esto, this is a neuter pronoun. Therefore, we use this when we do not know the gender or what is being referenced specifically. Okay? So, for example, eso es muy importante. That is very important. What is very important? It could be whatever. But the point is we don't mention it. If it is not known what is important, then we have to say eso. That's right. So eso es muy importante. If I say ¿qué es eso? What is that? That means I don't know what that is. I don't know the name or the gender. So I say ¿qué es eso? Muy bien. And the plural counterpart, we have esos and esas. So esos son mis alumnos. Those are my students. And of course, esos is referring to mis alumnos, which would be plural and masculine. A mi mamá le gustan estas mesas, pero me gustan esas. So my mother likes these tables, esas mesas. See how I used another demonstrative adjective within the sentence, but my mother likes these tables, but I like those ones, because we're being specific, those ones. Esas. So we know for sure that we're talking about tables. Muy bien. Muy fácil. No creen? Okay. So this is that. Now we're going to end off by looking at another demonstrative, which is that one over there, which is going to be an object that is even farther away from the speaker. Let's get to it. So we have reached the final demonstrative, which is that over there. In Spanish, this would be aquel or aquella if we're talking about it as an adjective. Now, that over there is going to be an object that is farther away from the speaker. So we have this, that, and that over there. But it will still translate as that, right? Okay. So the adjective, you know they have to agree with the noun in terms of gender and number. So we have aquel and aquella. Tráigame aquel móvil. Bring me that cell phone over there, okay? Now, aquel, because it is the noun that follows is masculine. And mira aquella casa. Look at that house. So if we have a noun that is masculine, we use aquel, and if we have a noun that is feminine, we use aquella. So let's look at the plural counterparts. So the plural of aquel is going to be aquellos. I didn't write it here, but yeah. And aquella is going to be aquellas. All right? So mira aquellas casas. Look at those houses. So I just use the plural counterpart. Tráigame aquellos móviles. Bring me those cell phones. Yep. And as a pronoun, we have aquel, aquella, and then of course the neuter pronoun aquello. Tráigame aquel. So in the past, the accent will be placed on the E to distinguish it from the demonstrative adjective. But as I said, that is not done anymore, and you can use them without putting a tilde, right? So tráigame aquel, bring me that one. So obviously we're talking about something specific, something that is already known, which would be móvil, cell phone. So bring me that one. And mira aquella, look at that one, which is going to be the host. And when it comes to aquello, aquello is the neuter pronoun. We are going to use this when we are not going, when we do not want to be specific about what that refers to, or if we don't know. Okay? So, no quiero ver aquello. I do not want to see that. What is that? We don't know. But if we don't know or we don't want to specify, we use the neuter pronoun. So just like eso and esto. Muy bien. So let's look at the demonstrative pronouns on the plural side. So we have aquellos and aquellas. Mira aquellas. Look at those ones. Those ones being houses, casas. And tráigame, ooh, I left off an accent. There we go. Yes. And tráigame aquellos. What is aquellos in this context? Móviles. Muy fácil. So as you see, with the adjectives, they agree with the noun that they describe in terms of gender and number, and they are placed directly before them. Whereas with the pronouns stand on their own, but what is being mentioned can either be in the sentence or it just can be known, okay? But whatever is being referenced, that pronoun must agree with it in terms of gender and number, right? And then we use the neuter pronoun if we do not want to be specific or if we do not know, okay? Eso es todo por hoy. Muchas gracias por mirar mis videos como siempre y hasta la vista.